What happens when a prince who claims to advocate mental health awareness completely loses his composure on one of America's most beloved late-night shows? Tonight, we're diving into the shocking confrontation that left Prince Harry stormed off the set of Late Night with Seth Meyers, leaving both the host and studio audience in complete disbelief. This isn't just another celebrity meltdown. This is a royal breakdown that exposed a side of Harry the public has never seen before. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below because this story gets more intense by the minute. The green room at 30 Rockefeller Plaza buzzed with its usual pre-show energy. Prince Harry sat in the corner chair, his leg bouncing impatiently as he scrolled through his phone. His media handler, a sharp-dressed woman named Caroline, hovered nearby with a clipboard full of talking points. The appearance was supposed to be a softball interview, a chance for Harry to promote his latest mental health initiative while charming American audiences with his trademark wit and vulnerability. What nobody anticipated was the storm brewing. Behind those familiar blue eyes, Seth Meyers knocked gently on the green room door before entering with his characteristic easy smile. He had interviewed countless celebrities, politicians, and public figures, always managing to strike the perfect balance between respectful and entertaining. Harry looked up from his phone, offering a tight smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Your Royal Highness, great to have you here tonight," Seth said, extending his hand. Harry shook it briefly, his grip firmer than necessary. "Just Harry, please. I thought we covered this with your producers," Harry replied, his tone carrying an edge that made Caroline shift uncomfortably. Seth's smile faltered slightly, but he recovered quickly. "Of course, Harry. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. The work you're doing with mental health awareness is incredibly important." "Is it though?" Harry stood abruptly, pacing toward the mirror. "Or is it just another opportunity for everyone to dissect my life for entertainment?" The room fell silent. Caroline cleared her throat nervously. "Harry, perhaps we should review the talking points one more time." "I don't need talking points," Harry snapped, whirling around to face her. "I'm not some manufactured pop star who needs scripted responses. I'm here to have a real conversation about real issues." Seth exchanged a glance with Caroline, both sensing the tension crackling in the air. "That's exactly what I want too, Harry. Authenticity. That's what our audience appreciates most." "Authenticity," Harry repeated, laughing bitterly. "That's rich coming from someone who makes jokes about people's personal tragedies for a living." The comment hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Seth's professional demeanor remained intact, but his eyes hardened slightly. "I think there might be some misunderstanding about what we do here." "Is there?" Harry moved closer, his voice dropping to a more menacing tone. "Because I seem to remember you making quite a few cracks about my family over the years. About my mother's death, about my struggles, about my wife. All in the name of comedy, right?" Caroline stepped forward, her voice urgent but controlled. "Harry, perhaps we should postpone this interview. You seem a bit stressed and dash. Don't." Harry turned on her with blazing eyes. "Don't you dare try to manage me right now. I'm tired of being managed, tired of being handled, tired of pretending everything is fine when it's not." Seth watched this exchange with growing concern. He had seen celebrities have pre-show jitters, even mild breakdowns, but this felt different. This felt dangerous. "Look, Harry, if you're not comfortable doing this interview, we can reschedule. There's no pressure here." "No pressure?" Harry laughed harshly. "Do you have any idea what it's like to live under a microscope every single day? To have every word, every gesture, every breath analyzed and criticized? And then to come on shows like this and pretend it's all just fun and games. I can only imagine how difficult that must be," Seth replied carefully. "But maybe that's exactly why this conversation is important. To show people the real you, the person behind the headlines. The real me." Harry's voice rose, causing Caroline to move toward the door. "The real me is angry, Seth. The real me is tired of smiling and pretending while people like you profit off my pain. The real me wants to burn this whole charade to the ground." The words echoed in the small room, leaving everyone frozen. Seth realized they had crossed into territory far beyond a typical celebrity interview. This wasn't just pre-show nerves or media fatigue. This was something much deeper and more troubling. "Harry," Seth said softly, "I think maybe we should call." "Your dash, don't." Harry cut him off, his finger pointed accusingly. Don't you dare try to dismiss me or call anyone. I came here to talk, and we're going to talk. On that stage, in front of your audience, with no scripts and no safety nets. That's what you want, isn't it? Authenticity. Caroline had moved to the door, her hand on the handle. I'm calling your security detail, she whispered into her phone. I don't need security, Harry snarled. I need people to stop treating me like I'm broken, like I'm going to shatter at any moment. I'm not made of glass, Seth. I'm made of fire. Seth nodded slowly, recognizing that reasoning with Harry in this state would be impossible. Okay, let's go out there and have that conversation. But Harry, I need you to understand that my audience doesn't deserve to be subjected to anger or hostility. They're good people who tune in to escape their own problems for a while. Their problems. Harry's eyes widened incredulously. What problems could they possibly have compared to what I've been through? Losing a mother in front of the world, having every relationship scrutinized, being forced to smile while tabloids tear apart everything you care about. Everyone has struggles, Harry. That's part of being human. Human. Harry stepped closer to Seth, close enough that the host could see the fury burning in his eyes. When exactly was I allowed to be human, Seth? When I was 12 and walking behind my mother's coffin. When I was partying in Vegas and the whole world called me a disgrace. When I fell in love and had to defend my wife against racist attacks. When exactly in that timeline was I permitted to just be human? The intensity of Harry's pain was overwhelming, filling the small room like smoke. Seth found himself genuinely moved by the raw emotion, even as he recognized how volatile the situation had become. You're right, Harry. You've been through things that most people couldn't imagine. And maybe that's exactly what people need to hear. Is it? Harry's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Or will they just turn it into another meme, another headline, another reason to point and stare at the prince who lost his mind on television? Caroline finished her phone call and approached cautiously. Harry, your brother called. He said, my brother. Harry exploded, spinning around so fast that both Seth and Caroline stepped back. My brother called. What did he say, Caroline? Did he tell you to sedate me? To drag me back to London? To lock me away until I learn to behave like a proper royal again? He's concerned about you, Caroline said carefully. Everyone is concerned about you. Concerned, Harry repeated mockingly. That's what they call it when they want to control you but don't want to admit it. I'm not a child anymore, Caroline. I'm not a broken toy that needs to be fixed. Seth watched this interaction with growing alarm. What had started as a difficult guest was evolving into something that felt genuinely dangerous. Not physically dangerous, but emotionally explosive in a way that could damage everyone involved. You know what, Harry? Seth's voice took on a firmer tone, his patience finally wearing thin. You're absolutely right. You're not a child. So maybe it's time you stopped acting like one. The words hit Harry like a physical blow. His face went pale, then flushed red with rage. Excuse me. You heard me, Seth continued, his professional composure cracking for the first time. I've been trying to be respectful, trying to understand your perspective, but you're standing here berating everyone around you like a spoiled teenager having a tantrum. Caroline moved quickly between them. Gentlemen, please, let's just take a moment to stay out of this. Harry snapped at her before turning back to Seth. A spoiled teenager? Do you have any idea what you just said to me? I said exactly what needed to be said, Seth replied, crossing his arms. You came here supposedly to talk about mental health awareness, but all you've done is attack everyone in this room. How is that helping anyone's mental health? Harry's hands clenched into fists at his sides. You think this is an attack? You want to see what an attack looks like? Is that a threat? Seth stepped closer, no longer intimidated. Because if it is, we're done here. Security can escort you out right now. Try it, Harry challenged, his voice deadly quiet. Call your security, call the police, call whoever you want. Let's see how that plays in tomorrow's headlines. Late night host has prince arrested for having emotions. The standoff stretched. Between them, both men breathing heavily. Caroline looked frantically between them, her phone buzzing with increasingly urgent messages from the show's producers. The audience was seated, the cameras were ready, and what was supposed to be a friendly interview had turned into a powder keg moments away from exploding. You know what your problem is, Seth? Harry broke the silence, his voice dripping with contempt. You're just another vulture in a suit. You pretend to care, pretend to be the good guy, But at the end of the day, you're no different from every other media parasite who's made a career off my family's misery. That's enough, Seth said firmly. I've been nothing but respectful to you, and you've done nothing but insult me and my staff since you walked in here. If you can't conduct yourself professionally, then maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews at all. Professionally, Harry laughed bitterly. Like your profession of mocking people's pain for laughs. Like your profession of reducing complex human beings to punchlines? That kind of professional. I make jokes about public figures who put themselves in the spotlight, Seth shot back. It comes with the territory. If you can't handle that, maybe you should have stayed in England. The comment struck Harry like lightning. His entire body went rigid, and when he spoke, his voice was barely controlled fury. Maybe I should have stayed in England? Maybe I should have just accepted being trapped in a system that killed my mother and was destroying my wife? Maybe I should have just smiled and waved while they ground us into dust. That's not what I meant, and you know it, Seth replied. But Harry was beyond reasoning now. No, I think that's exactly what you meant, Harry continued, his voice rising. Stay in your place, play your role, don't rock the boat. Just like everyone else who thinks they know what's best for me, what's best for my family, what's best for my life. Caroline tried once more to intervene. Harry, the audience is waiting. Maybe we should just cancel Dash. No. Harry cut her off sharply. We're not canceling. We're going out there, and Seth is going to ask me his questions, and I'm going to give him answers he'll never forget. Not in this state, Seth said firmly. I won't put my audience through this, and I won't be part of whatever breakdown you're having on live television. Breakdown. Harry's voice turned dangerously quiet. You think this is a breakdown, Seth? This is clarity. This is me finally saying what I've been thinking for years while everyone around me smiled and nodded and enabled the very system that's been destroying me. Then say it to a therapist, not to my audience, Seth replied. Because whatever this is, it's not an interview anymore. You're right, Harry said, suddenly calm in a way that made everyone in the room more nervous than his anger had. This isn't an interview. This is an intervention. But not for me, Seth. For all of you. He moved toward the door, but instead of leaving, he turned back to face them. You want to know about mental health awareness? Let me tell you what nobody wants to admit. The system is broken, Seth. Not just the royal system, not just the media system, but the whole bloody thing. And everyone who participates in it, everyone who profits from it, everyone who pretends it's normal to dissect human beings for entertainment, they're all complicit. Harry, you're spiraling, Caroline said urgently. This isn't helping anyone. Spiraling. Harry turned on her with renewed fury. I'm the only one here who's being honest. Seth sits behind his desk every night making jokes about people's real pain, real trauma, real struggles, and somehow he's the good guy? You manage my image, spin my words, package my grief into marketable sound bites, and somehow that's normal. Seth watched Harry's rant with a mixture of concern and growing irritation. You're attacking people who are trying to help you, Harry. Your handler is doing her job. I'm trying to give you a platform to share your message, but all you want to do is burn everything down. Maybe everything needs to burn down, Harry replied, with frightening intensity. Maybe the whole corrupt system needs to collapse before anyone can actually heal from the damage it's caused. The room fell silent except for the sound of Caroline's increasingly frantic typing on her phone. Seth realized they had moved far beyond anything that could be salvaged for television. This wasn't just a difficult guest anymore. This was someone in genuine crisis. Harry, Seth said more gently, I think you need help. Real help, not an interview. Help. Harry's laugh was hollow. From who? From the same people who created this mess? From the therapists who get paid to tell me everything will be fine if I just learn to cope better? From the handlers who get paid to make sure I never say anything that might actually change things? From people who care about you as a person, not as a public figure, Seth replied. People who care about me. Harry's voice cracked slightly. Do you know how many people claim to care about me, Seth? Do you know how many of them disappear the moment I stop being useful to them? For the first time since entering the green room, Seth saw something other than anger in Harry's eyes. He saw pain, raw and overwhelming, and for a moment he understood why Harry was lashing out at everyone around him. Maybe some of them do disappear, Seth said carefully. But that doesn't mean everyone will, doesn't it? Harry's voice was barely above a whisper now. Because in my experience, everyone has. A breaking point. Everyone has a moment where they decide I'm too much work, too much drama, too much damage to be worth it. The vulnerability in his voice made Caroline look up from her phone, and even Seth felt his anger begin to dissipate. But before anyone could respond, Harry's expression hardened again. But you know what? I'm done caring about other people's breaking points. I'm done trying to be the version of myself that makes everyone else comfortable. Tonight, on your show, your audience is going to meet the real Prince Harry, not the media-trained, trauma-packaged, palatable version. The angry, damaged, furious version that everyone pretends doesn't exist. I can't let you do that, Seth said firmly. Not to my audience, and honestly, not to yourself. You'll regret it tomorrow. Will I? Harry smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Or will I finally feel free? The tension in the green room had reached a breaking point when a sharp knock interrupted the standoff. The show's executive producer, Janet, entered without waiting for permission, her face grave as she took in the scene before her. "We have a problem," she announced, her eyes moving between Seth and Harry. "The audience is getting restless, and we're already running behind schedule." "Then let's give them what they came for," Harry said, straightening his jacket with renewed determination. "Let's go out there and have that authentic conversation Seth promised them." Janet looked at Seth with concern. "Can we have a moment?" she asked Harry and Caroline, who reluctantly stepped outside into the hallway. "He's not in any condition to do this interview," Seth said immediately once they were alone. "Something's seriously wrong with him tonight." "I gathered that from the shouting we could hear in the control room," Janet replied grimly. "But we have 300 people in that audience who've been waiting for over an hour. We need to make a decision." "The decision is easy," Seth said. "We cancel. We tell the audience there was a scheduling conflict. We run a rerun, and we deal with the fallout tomorrow." "Do you have any idea what kind of media storm that would create?" Janet asked. "Prince Harry storms off late-night show. Host refuses to interview him? That story would dominate news cycles for weeks." Seth rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of an impossible situation. "And what happens when we put him on stage in this state? That story could be even worse." "Maybe," Janet conceded. "But at least then we maintain some control over the narrative. If we cancel now, every tabloid in the world will speculate about what really happened." Through the green room's small window, they could see Harry pacing in the hallway, his animated gestures suggesting he was in heated conversation with Caroline. Whatever she was saying to him wasn't having a calming effect. "Look," Janet continued, "you're one of the best interviewers in the business. If anyone can navigate this situation, it's you. Maybe you can even help him." "I'm a talk show host, not a therapist," Seth replied. "And right now he needs therapy, not television." Before Janet could respond, the door burst open and Harry strode back in, Caroline trailing behind him looking defeated. "Decision made," Harry announced. "We're doing this interview. Caroline here has been trying to convince me to leave, but I'm not running away anymore. I'm not letting other people make decisions about my life anymore." "Harry," Caroline pleaded, "you're not thinking clearly right now. Tomorrow you'll dash. Tomorrow I'll what?" Harry spun to face her. "Tomorrow I'll regret telling the truth. Tomorrow I'll wish I had kept pretending everything is fine. Tomorrow I'll be grateful that you saved me from having real emotions in public." Seth watched this exchange with growing dread. Every instinct told him to walk away, but Janet was right about one thing. If he refused to do the interview now, the speculation would be endless and probably worse than whatever actually happened on stage. "Fine," Seth said finally. "We'll do the interview. But Harry, I need your word that you'll keep this civil. My audience doesn't deserve to be subjected to hostility." "Civil," Harry repeated, tasting the word. "Define civil, Seth. Does civil mean I smile while you ask me about my dead mother? Does civil mean I laugh at your jokes about my family's dysfunction? Does civil mean I pretend that being constantly scrutinized and criticized hasn't affected me? Civil means you treat my audience and my staff with respect," Seth replied firmly. "Whatever issues you have with me or the media in general, those people in that audience aren't responsible for them." Harry considered this for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Fair enough. Your audience isn't the enemy. But Seth, if you try to ambush me with gotcha questions or cheap shots, all bets are off." "I don't do ambush interviews," Seth said. "I'm not that kind of host." "We'll see," Harry replied ominously. Janet stepped forward, trying to restore some semblance of normalcy. Gentlemen, we really need to get moving. The audience is getting impatient, and we're already 40 minutes behind schedule. As they made their way toward the stage, Caroline grabbed Seth's arm. He's not himself tonight, she whispered urgently. I've never seen him like this. Please, whatever happens out there, remember that this isn't who he really is. Seth nodded, but privately wondered if maybe this was exactly who Harry really was, stripped of all the careful media training and public relations polish. Maybe this was what happened when someone who had been performing their entire life finally decided to stop acting. The stage lights were blinding as they walked out, the audience applauding enthusiastically despite the long delay. Seth took his place behind his desk while Harry settled into the guest chair, his posture rigid but his smile fixed in place. For a moment, Seth allowed himself to hope that maybe the familiar routine of television would help Harry find his equilibrium. We're back with Prince Harry, Seth began, his professional warmth masking the tension he felt. Thanks for being here tonight, and sorry for keeping everyone waiting. No need to apologize, Harry replied, his voice steady but his eyes still, carrying that dangerous glint. Sometimes the most important conversations are worth waiting for. Seth felt his stomach tighten at the implication in Harry's tone. You're here tonight to talk about your mental health initiatives, which have been getting a lot of positive attention. Have they? Harry leaned forward slightly. Or have they been getting attention because people find it fascinating when royals admit to being human? The audience laughed, thinking it was a joke, but Seth could hear the edge beneath Harry's words. I think people appreciate authenticity, especially from someone in your position. My position, Harry repeated. You mean my position as someone who lost his mother at 12 and had to grieve in front of the entire world? That position. The laughter from the audience died abruptly. Seth felt the energy in the room shift, sensing that they had already moved into dangerous territory. I think people can relate to loss and trauma, regardless of their circumstances, Seth replied carefully. Can they? Harry's voice grew harder. Can they really relate to having photographers chase your mother to her death? Can they relate to walking behind her coffin while millions of strangers watched and judged whether you were grieving properly? The audience sat in uncomfortable silence. This wasn't the charming, vulnerable Harry they had expected. This was someone else entirely, someone raw and angry and unpredictable. Seth realized he had two choices: try to steer the conversation back to safer ground, or lean into Harry's pain and see if he could help him work through it on stage. Against his better judgment, he chose the latter. No, they can't relate to that specific experience, Seth admitted. But they can relate to loss, to feeling like they have to perform strength when they're falling apart inside. Harry stared at him for a long moment, as if trying to determine whether Seth was being genuine or manipulative. You think that's what I'm doing? Performing strength? I think you're performing something, Seth replied. The question is whether it's helping you or hurting you. The words hung in the air between them, and for a moment, Harry's carefully constructed facade cracked. The audience could see it, the vulnerability beneath the anger, the exhaustion beneath the defiance. You want to know what's hurting me, Seth? Harry's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but in the silent studio, everyone could hear him. Clearly, what's hurting me is that 27 years after my mother died, people are still profiting from her death. What's hurting me is that I can't protect my wife from the same machine that killed her. What's hurting me is that everyone wants me to be grateful for a life that's been nothing but a performance. The studio was completely silent now, 300 people holding their breath as they witnessed something that felt too private, too painful for public consumption. And what's hurting me most of all, Harry continued, his voice growing stronger and more dangerous, is sitting across from people like you who pretend to care while you exploit that pain for ratings. Seth felt the accusation hit him like a physical blow. The audience gasped audibly, and he knew that whatever happened next would define not just this interview, but possibly both of their careers. I think, Seth said slowly, you should leave. Harry smiled, but it was the smile of someone who had finally gotten exactly what they wanted. There it is, the real Seth Meyers. Not the compassionate interviewer, not the mental health advocate, just another person who wants me gone the moment I stop being convenient. He stood up from his chair, the microphone still clipped to his lapel, broadcasting every word to the stunned audience. Ladies and gentlemen, Harry addressed the crowd directly. You've just witnessed something remarkable. You've seen exactly how mental health awareness works in practice. The moment someone's pain becomes inconvenient, the moment their trauma stops being palatable, they get told to leave. Seth stood as well, his professional composure finally cracking completely. You're having a breakdown on live television, and I'm trying to protect you from making it worse. Protect me. Harry laughed bitterly. You're protecting yourself, Seth. You're protecting your show, your reputation, your comfortable little world where people's pain is just content to be consumed. He began walking toward the edge of the stage, then turned back for one final confrontation. Subscribe and comment, everyone. Tell me, what's more damaging to mental health awareness? Someone having real emotions in public, or a system that demands those emotions be packaged into entertainment? I'll be interested to read your thoughts. With that, Prince Harry walked off the stage of Late Night with Seth Meyers, leaving behind an audience in shock, a host in crisis, and a moment of television that would be dissected and debated for years to come.